We work harder, we do more, even when we shouldn't, and we do it purely because we have that view that it is required. Dr. Chris Jones, Senior Lecturer in Marketing, Communications and Management.
It will happen through comedic gestures. It will happen through who is invited into a space. It will happen through actually not actively listening to the student body where the attainment gap is so wide. Oh, we're doing well because, you know, they've appeared, they're here, they're in our institutions. But the gap between who's doing well has grown dramatically. I'm Natalie Ashman. I'm an academic head. But whose responsibility is it? Because it shouldn't just be mine or Chris's. And I think that's how racism really has shaped itself in institutions. It's like we are supposed to own the responsibility because we have been allowed to be in these positions of power, but we don't speak for everyone.
No.
We consciously don't speak for everyone.
We don't, and I think the key is that racism, to me, within academia, is very subtle but insidious.
Yeah.
It's very, very subtle. And it's subtle when you look at the structures, the power structures within academia, senior leadership. Yes, and when you look beneath that, the support staff, generally people of color, above the support staff in various, and this is not one institution, this is across multiple institutions. So it's insidious, and you have to ask yourself, why aren't there more senior persons of color in academia? And hiring practices are influenced by patronage, nepotism, while we have to work twice as hard to get to the same position that another colleague who would have known someone who recommended them to interview for the role would get that role.
Can I interrupt?
Of course you can.
It also sort of drives itself from the position of it's enough for an organisation to have one of you because then they've done their bit. You can speak on that, and actually you don't even need to speak on it. You can just appear at events. You can be the woman in the room, the black person in the room, and that's their EDI piece. I think it's so much lip service to be living in a city or an environment where you have such a massive demographic of young people that you are teaching that they cannot mirror themselves in the organisations that you work in. It's just unacceptable.
That comes down to what racism is. It's the lack of representation.
Exactly, and I guess that word exhaustion is
It's a recurring theme.
Yeah, it's powerful because, you know, coming to talk about on this film today, there's been so many times where I'm just like, I just don't want to be that voice in the room again. But it does come down to us being that voice in that space because we work in academia. Many times I didn't want to go for this role. I had lots of women ask me to go for this role, which felt really empowering. Academia isn't just predominantly white, it's predominantly male. So, you know, Chris talks about being a black male and I talk about being a black female and I sit underneath him. We've got the masters, we've got the bachelors, we've got the PG certs, we've got all the letters after our name. But when you enter those spaces, you don't belong. So I had lots of reservations to enter those spaces, being female, being black, being the only one. The further I've moved up, the less people I see like me. If I go to a conference, I don't see people that look like me, sound like me. And I think, how do we create a system where we have 100 people in a room talking about people's education, about what they should go and do, how we're going to impact them. Their voice is really important. But none of you are representing anyone. I mean, it's just such a cliche. You know, there's a point where people shift and move, shape shift. They move organisations, they quit jobs. And then the cycle just continues and continues with a different person in a similar role.
I remember my first and only experience walking into a university and just seeing black academics. And I was floored. I just could not believe it. And it was when I started my doctorate, and I was talking to the head of operations, who was a black guy. And before he could even said his name, I actually shook his hand and congratulated him. because he was the first black senior academic in a position of significant power that I've ever met. It just blew, I was just dumbfounded because every institution that I've worked in has been the direct opposite. Representation is responsibility.
When young people walk through the door and they understand what job I do and their face lights up, that gives me, you know, the route to continue what I'm doing. What networks can you create? When you're breaking the status quo, you're dealing with so many other challenges. You're dealing with people's self-esteem, basically. Lived experiences actually being worthy, documented, and then implemented into policy. You have to find your people, and I think this isn't about being white or black.
Your tribe.
You have to find people that have a similar mindset to you. It's important to know that we're vulnerable in those spaces because people expect us to be the voice for many others, but where's the protection for us as individuals? They need to know they're walking into a place where there are people who are similar to them, with similar understanding, good mindsets, openness. Supportive, you know, structures. That's what education should be, a bolstering. It shouldn't be a barrier. And I just would love to enter a room without someone wondering if I'm quite qualified to be in that space.
We can dream.
Yeah.
We can dream. But yeah.